Pretty amazing to go from October 37 to an opening 2 years later from a thought. I wish we could work so fast and as inexpensively these days. This particular project, I know at the clinic, a lot of us probably think we've been doing this for 10 years, but we've had several years of planning into this because the world has changed a little bit. And I also want to comment, when the St. Clair Hospital opened, virtually every department head was a member of the congregation, and the sisters were very physically visible. I can assure you that initial mission and vision for St. Clair Hospital and now Monroe Clinic that the sisters brought to this community is very much alive, and what drives us every day, that mission of service and continuing the healing mission of Jesus, is very much a part of Monroe Clinic, even though the sisters aren't physically here as much as they were then. And healthcare is in a great state of change. It's probably one of the most change-oriented parts of our world and economy. And as part of that progress, every few decades we find ourselves facing the need to expand and improve our facilities. There is simply no such thing as modern healthcare without modern facilities. This was true in 1939 when the sisters constructed the first hospital building, the first St. Clair Hospital, which is in this picture. Now, you may not recognize it, but we still use that facility, and in fact, our OB unit is still on the third floor of that facility, and this is part of what we're trying to address with this new addition. Delivering babies works fairly well in the facility where it is, but it's also in a building that's 70 years old and not what we want to provide in terms of the patient experience for our communities today. The need for improvement continued, improvement and expansion in the 50s and again in the 70s as additional physical plant additions were made to St. Clair Hospital and Monroe Clinic. So you can see here is pretty much the buildings as they existed before the clinic moved to the campus, 30s, 50s, and 70s. And then there were some additional improvements made in the 80s. Just want to comment on changes. Currently, as the industry has changed and the delivery of healthcare has changed, there's been expanded need and requirements for imaging. So when the 70s addition was built and the 80s expansion, we expanded imaging department to address some of those needs. There have been continued changes in technology. So for example, our MRI unit, there is no space inside the building. It's housed in a trailer near our loading dock. So about 2,600 times a year, we take a patient through materials management, purchasing department near the loading dock to get scanned for a diagnostic image. And in our new building, we'll be able to bring that inside the building and create a much more positive experience and safer patient experience for our patients. I'm sure many of you recognize this as Monroe Clinic as it existed downtown. And then in the mid-90s was an investment in bringing the clinic and hospital together after the merger of Monroe Clinic and St. Clair Hospital. And patient care and convenience was the focus of this move to relocate the original clinic building adjacent and more integrated into the hospital service. Today we find ourselves in the same place as our predecessors found themselves several times over the past 7 decades, in need of new facilities. It's true, we are delivering high quality care within our existing facilities. We have a great team that's doing that day in, day out. But every year that becomes more difficult. And we realize that old buildings appear to be in fine shape, and they've been well kept over the years, and many in the community have strong attachments to the facilities. And it's difficult to imagine how these facilities could diminish the care we can provide to patients. But essentially, hospital services have changed significantly since our most recent hospital building was built in 1971. At that time, pretty much all of hospital care was inpatient. Probably the census of St. Clair Hospital at that time was 150, 180 patients, and 95% of the work that hospitals did and services were provided to patients who were staying overnight in the hospital. In the past 30, 40 years, that has changed almost entirely the opposite. Now, more and more of our services are provided on an outpatient basis, and we're struggling to do that in buildings that are built 4 decades earlier to focus on inpatient services. When we began the detailed design work on this project, we had a large group of staff, board members, and medical staff members meet upstairs at Turner Hall in a visioning session. And we spent several hours trying to identify what we want this new building, this new facility, new addition to, what do we want it to feel like, be like, what do we want it to add in terms of the patient experience. And out of that came a series of project drivers. Now outside you'll see after the session there are 2 boards with a little more detailed list, but this is kind of a quick summary. We're focused very much on the environment and a comfortable environment for patients and families to support the healing journey that our patients and families go through dealing with difficult medical issues. We also want to create some sanctuary space that allows patients to connect with nature, some space for spirituality and reflection, and I hope that you'll see that as we walk through the design. And we also wanted an environment that promotes continuous improvement for us as an organization and some flexibility built in so that we can adjust within the new space to needs of the healthcare, that healthcare will, demands for healthcare services, the changes that'll be coming 10 years from now, 15 years from now that we can't even anticipate at this point. We also want to have facilities that support planning for the future in terms of anticipated growth within our community and services that we can bring to our community, and also a continuously aging population with greater healthcare needs.